being with us. Hi everyone. So where would you like to start? With the poem itself, Softly We Fall?
Yeah, why not? Let's start with reading.
Let's fall softly and not through the current.
Okay, so this is the title poem Softly We Fall from my book Softly We Fall. I'll read it through other poems later on. Softly we fall, slip arm in arm, plunge mind in mind, spill eye to eye, sink word for word into the foretold together. On the road will dry, gently, into the low, into the tumult, into the heavy, soft, knowing, we fall, softly, together, this time.
Thank you. Right. So, tell me something about your poems and I feel I've read the collection and beautiful, and I mean, I felt there was no pretense. That's I was like, okay, it's so real, and so sometimes we think when we have to write that we have to find impressive stuff, use impressive words, and so that it will be worthy of being read, and people will think, okay, I bought this book, and because it's a tricky business, this poetry writing.
You think, you say it's simple, so therefore you feel like you have to kind of...
No, it's simple, but it's profound. But we have this impression that something needs to be very deep or like sounding. Especially when it comes to when English is the second language and it's the language of the colonizer. If you understand what he said, you think it's.
So I feel like, as far as I'm concerned, the rawness is where the poetry is for me. So I tend to write in very simple language, though
not necessarily simple poems.
Not necessarily simple poems, but I do tend to use simple language because I don't think you need to be heavy or
for impression's sake.
If you immediately end, it is an emotion that you're trying to evoke, and to evoke that emotion you need to kind of really touch someone, and touch someone you have to be understood. So there's no point in being flowery for the sake.
What is worthy what is worthy of poetry? What would make it to a poem?
Life itself is worthy of poetry, I think. I am someone who is very, I'm awestruck by a lot of things. I'm awestruck by life itself, and I find beauty in the simplest of things. That's in general, but I think poetry-wise, what has made it to both my books is stuff about love and loss, heartbreak, some poems about grief and depression. It skirts around those themes for now, but doesn't mean to say that there isn't other things that are poetry worthy. I think itself is a huge inspiration.
Let me ask, are you conscious of form and structure and all these very theoretical things in terms of writing poetry? In Sinhala, when pre-verse came, the biggest criticism was that okay, now anybody can be a poet. And I didn't, I learned about it, that it was something that came much before us. But now when I see pre-verse, and which is out there as poetry, sometimes you do understand why they are opposed. But because sometimes it's just if you take an essay and you just down, like, just break it somewhere and put
Yeah, I know this way. I am conscious of it, though I was not a student of literature, meaning, yes, for O-level literature I did, but I have not done a degree in English. So I do have knowledge.
You're a more free person.
No, I am free, but I know certain devices and structure and all of that. But still, what I follow as a writer.
You're not governed by it.
I'm not governed by it, but I am governed by rhythm.
Right.
Because I have a bit of music in me as well. I tend to write the beat. So that's probably what my poems kind of structure to. In my mind, I don't know how they are when people actually read them. But for me, when I'm writing them, I write them to rhythm so that it's spoken word for me. It's meant to be the place that we feel.
Would you like to write? Read me.
Trying. I'm wonderfully wrong. There's more of me now, see? Fragments, shattered bursts scattered, strewn like glitter, confetti pieces ready to reflect light love. More of me, defiled and beguiled like seashore treasures, pretty, keepsake. So much to go round, so little to be reduced to, broken. Which piece is yours? You come to me in gasps and shadows, in neon mirages and expectant prickles at the nape of my neck, in tightening breaths and knots of music, in the lingering gaze of others' eyes, in the restlessness of fingers, in the curling of toes, in empty, crowded places. One gets over love, but madness?
Any questions?
The same thing about English and
Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, I do think in English. I think, even though I am Tamil, my mom is a mother. And because I come from mixed lineage, I have from childhood I have been speaking English as my first language. Though I studied completely in Tamil. So it's a weird kind of thing where in school I used to have to think in English and then translate that entire stuff into Tamil when I write essays and stuff, which was tedious. But it's a weird mix because I write and think completely in English, but a lot of the art I consume, so movies, music, all of that is Tamil. So yes, I do watch English movies, but 90% of the time it's Tamil music and movies. Writing.
How important did you get the...
I
try to write it down. It's not as
I
good.
think when you grow older, you start wanting to go back to your roots.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
do
I'm
really
feeling.
try. I dabble in it once in a while, but I feel like I haven't got it yet. Not like in English, so I let it go.
How important is exposure to your poets?
So important. I feel like a lot of us really create that and we don't have enough of it in this side of the world. There's a lot happening in the arts and literary scene overseas where you get to kind of be out there, step out there, have a lot of people perform, all of that, which is happening here in a big way.
I see a lot of activity, insensitivity, to which is not ours. Like, people, so all this poetry, all this literature, it's not our problem. That's what happens. So I think it's a writer, it's a poet who can inspire people because I see feel it's my own personal problem, we fail to recognize the problem. So I feel that, that the writer has a lot to do with opening, eyes and making us sensitive to, because you come from mixed backgrounds, which is so important. Most of us don't have that luxury. So it's not these compartmentalized differences.
But exposure, I feel like the country is trying, there are people who are trying to take the arts forward, and a lot of people giving platforms to creatives, to writers, artists, everyone. So it's only a matter of time. But they're still at the infancy, I feel, and they're still kind of getting there. So hopefully,
and also that inside knowledge that you have, that's your privilege.
Inside knowledge
of what, say two cultures, maybe languages that you are exposed to it. I don't have that. We have different things, but you are different.
And that's such an incredible privilege. I've been exposed to
privilege in the sense, I'm sorry if I use the word privilege.
No, but it is, I do feel I'm very privileged to be of
in terms of that exposure.
Yeah, because it gives you different perspective as well. And you bring with you a lot of what it is on both sides. And living in a mixed culture like Sri Lanka. So you get a good mix of things, which is great. Not everyone gets to have that experience and carry that with them. But yeah,
anything else that you would like to say about it?
I think it's really wonderful. Okay, I'm going to read something that's not in the book, but something that is very close to my heart, and it's currently being taught at the Asian International School as well, and I feel really proud to say that it's something about toxic masculinity which we are all privy to, and about how really it's not that everybody is soft inside. So this one is called Boys Don't Cry. Boys don't cry. Boys crack like parched earth, with crevices so deep and so wide that anything resembling the moist caress of hot things fall deep inside them, without so much as brushing against their crumbling insides. Boys wear stained chest and muddy guts, churning, still, empty, full, smelly, tight, loose, muddied guts. Boys burn old thorns in their knees. They carry the heat with them like an eternal funeral pyre. Boys need cross voices somewhere between their eyes and their lips, and they let them use the soft wet spaces in their throats at twilight, at midnight, at the darkest hour just before dawn. Boys bleed in song. Boys scream with their fingers. Boys shrink into minuscule droplets of salt, invisible and ever-present. Boys puncture their lungs inside caves. Boys forget to breathe. Boys carry shadows in their pockets. Boys are forever drenched in unsets. Because boys don't want, can't, mustn't, shouldn't, but somehow do cry. Thank you.
So we always say male writers write about women, and you've done the other way around. Yeah.
Inspired by a movie I watched, and it's just
Which one?
Kala.
Yeah, Kala.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Anybody wanted to ask a
Yeah,
question?
nobody. Yeah, I don't. What about? Do you?
What sort of, how do you handle criticism? Because as writers, we put ourselves out there, and not everyone agrees with what we say, what we write, especially given that, the region our exposure is in can sometimes be very limited and constricted. So I wouldn't say criticism, I would say rejection. Because people have so far been very kind, and I don't think I've got any hate online so far. But the rejection from publisher, mails, if you get in your inbox saying you're not good enough, you're never good enough. And that, dealing with that is hard. But you do have to kind of penetrate and get working someone and try to find another avenue and not get, not get too put off by the fact that someone else thinks you're not good enough. Someone out there will. I feel like if in my case, I write for myself, and if I resonate with what I'm writing, then there is definitely someone else out there who is also going to resonate. And maybe one day that person who resonates will be a publisher. I will find me. But until then, it's trying and trying. Do we need publishers, or can we just write online? Well, I think it's that gratification, right? And validation that a publisher accepts your work. In the end, it is validation. I mean, right now we have so much of tools, we can publish ourselves, independent publishers growing. And that's how I see a lot of writers moving forward with independent publishing. But somewhere inside you feel like, oh, the publisher accepts my work.
Yeah. And then publishing can be so tough, right, in terms of
It's huge, you're giving your heart and soul to someone else to go and say, okay, here's your edited thing, now put it up. So, I mean, you have to be ready for it if that's what you want. If not, there's always self-publishing, which is what I'm but I'm still trying. I'm still trying to publish it.
What would you say to somebody thinking that he or she is not good enough to say this? Who is going to read this? And how is my opinion on that?
We all have to be able to get over that. We will put out our work and then we will be like, Lord, so it just takes that little bit of courage and also maybe a friend who tells you know what, I love it. So maybe there's someone else who loves it too, so just keep going. And it's important that for all of us to have that.
Have you ever had to compromise your writing so that others get accepted? Others accept what you write. Sometimes, no, this is not what you want. This doesn't sell. I've heard it with my ears. This it doesn't sell. I've been told poetry.
That's the first thing. Poetry. We don't publish poetry because who's gonna buy poetry, right? But you make art because it's art and because it's your passion and you want to make someone feel, and it's not because you want to be making money out of your poetry.
Is this why you should also have a different job where you write?
Yeah,
We all do.
Yeah, because we're all definitely employed. We make living out of books, but we do it anyway.
Right.
It's the love of the craft, I think.
Can't be a Bukowski, right?
Thank you so much.
We can read one more.
yeah, you have to.
One more. I'll go to this.
All right. sift through seas of heads, none of them yours. Forests of words wrap around me, none of them yours. Colonies of hands reach out to me, none of them yours. Honey-soaked faces present themselves on platters, sickly sweet. Pedestals reach fluffy clouds, bouquets of praise line the walkways, and I, envied and desired, searched in vain to be entered by you.
I think you write the same tempo of your poem. Is it just that you read it that way, or can I read it in a different way? It's the same. Yeah, okay, maybe that, but then.
Yeah, it's probably because I sing it. So the beautiful things just come straight naturally.
We are first.
Oh, yeah. Hello. Hi, how are you? I have a question. If you wanted to encourage anyone to try poetry who loves poetry but has never written any before, do you have any idea of a fun little exercise they could do? Like with limiting, for someone who wants to try? Yeah, just even on their own, like maybe something gathering words, random words. Yeah, so the challenge is reducing word association thing, sometimes a nice thing to do is take a newspaper and do stuff with found poetry where you cut off things on the black out stuff. What do you do? Can you explain it clearly to anyone who's listening? If somebody's never heard of that, how would you explain the exercise? Okay, so you take a newspaper and you start by blacking out certain passages out until you're left with certain words that connect in some way. So you're making a sentence of your own, but with words that are already given to you. So you're kind of erasing out certain sections of the newspaper, but what is left in the end makes a poem.
And what's that exercise called?
I think it's something like found poetry, but
Found poetry.
Found poetry. So I think you can do that with anything. Like you can do it with boards, bringing boards of things, or absolutely anything. It's just with words that you find. That's why it's called found poetry. Can I add to Megan on that? So there's something that I do. So when I feel like writing, I get some of my close friends, I just tell them, shoot me 4 words. 4 words. Or 5 words or something like that. Then around that I try to develop something. And so that is something that I do. And the other thing is the reactionary work. I would just ask someone, or I would just pick a random book from my bookshelf, open it. The first passage that I'm reading, I would write something for it, a response. So, as a poem, that is something that I do. Interesting. Yes. Yeah.
New techniques.
It's a question.
Any question?
No question, but there was a point that you had brought up earlier. I think, the reason you don't have so many people writing is because they're so busy running to be a poet or a writer. You just, I don't know who wants to hear.
It's just the regulars at all Lit Fest who are sitting here and chatting. People don't have the time to sit and think. The moment you find time for yourself, just to sit, you'll start writing poetry, you'll start writing, you'll start expressing yourself better. And I think that's the main problem that we see today. Definitely. Having to have a job and then finding time for writing something. So I wish writing was like a job. Still. But I mean, we try. We live it.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you for listening to me.
You can get a signature and you can take a photograph.
You're at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
So I'll go around and I'll come because I don't know the other person.
Thank you so much.
I came for